I've been talking about this for a year now. As soon as I heard that Dr. Dre was going to produce an entire Snoop Dogg album, man, the teenager in me, when I first heard The Chronic, when I first heard Doggy Style, when I first heard Murder Was the Case, when I first heard The Chronic 2001, all those albums can instantly rush into me. The way those albums made me feel, the time I was in, man, it was just incredible music, that G-Funk era. And even with the Dre 2001, he kind of switched it up a little bit, but it was still banging, boy. And when I heard Snoop Dogg was going to team up with Dr. Dre for this album called The Missionary, which is, another position from Doggy Style to Missionary, I was super excited. I was like, take my money right now. And I was counting the days before that album was coming out. They had released a couple singles, and I had heard them. Okay. So anyways, I think Snoop Dogg pretty much breaks it down. Snoop Dogg responds to The Missionary reception. It's a thin line between love and hate. Snoop Dogg has something to say about the response to his new album, Missionary, mainly the critics who initially voiced negative opinions. Yes, I have been seeing online lots of negative opinions. Not a lot of people were thrilled about it. Some people were, some people were not. Everybody had an opinion. Take it to Instagram with the video on Thursday, December 19th. Snoop thanked his fans for the support and shared his thoughts on everyone else. And he goes, first of all, thank y'all for the support for Missionary. He began. Long time coming. Love the reception. But let me say this. I've been watching people's podcasts and people doing reviews. A couple of them specifically where they were starting off saying, I wasn't into this album. I don't like Snoop Dogg. I wasn't anticipating this. I don't care. Really just listening just to listen. Started off hating. Interesting. All right. So he also goes, get to song 3 or 4, demeanor changed a little bit. By the time they got to the song 8, 9, 10, they love Snoop Dogg, loving the production, loving the growth. By the time they get to the end, they're in tears because they're emotionally behind the body of work that me and Dr. Dre put together, trying to show how to make a body of work, a project well received. I love the hate and the love. That's why we do it. We do it. We love what we do. Thank y'all. In the caption, he added, thin line between love and hate. Prayer emoji. Your kids, your mama love me. Laughing emoji. Carrying on. Missionary is set to penetrate next week's Billboard's 200 chart, which it has. Just not as deep as people were probably expecting. According to Hits Daily Double, the long-awaited album from Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre is projected to earn 36,000 equivalent units in its first week. Really quickly, how do you break this down? All right, this isn't like back in the day where you physically bought the copy, where you bought the cassette, where you bought the record, where you bought the CD. This is different. We're in the streaming age. How do you count that? I mean, does it count by the downloads? Because nowadays people aren't downloading the entire album anymore. They're just downloading the tracks that they like. So interesting how they came up with that number. 36,000 equivalent unit sales in its first week. With the figure, the project, we likely debut this number 20 on Billboard's 200 behind previously released rap albums such as Tyler, the Creator's Chromacropia and Kendrick Lamar's GNX. If the forecast is accurate, Missionary would be one of Snoop Dogg's least commercially successful albums and by Dre's worst performing release. By Dre's standard, Dre, he had some bombs. Yes, he did. But also, I remember right after Death Row, when he first started Aftermath, his first albums or two that he released under Aftermath weren't as big as his previous albums. Does that count? Interesting, right? I'm just throwing it out there, right? The Dogfather has dropped a series of low-selling projects in recent years, with The Bible of Love, Algorithm, and Back on Death Row all struggling to crack the top 100 on the Billboard 200. Dre, who produced Missionary but isn't technically billed as the lead artist, has never debuted outside the top 10 or sold less than 200,000 in its first week units. Despite this, the NWA legend has heaped high praises on Missionary in terms of the quality, calling it one of the best efforts of his decorated career. The 16-track boosts appearances, fellow hip-hop heavyweights such as Eminem, 50 Cent, Method Man, as well as Sting, Jelly Roll, BJ, the Chicago Kid, and the late Tom Petty. This story, by the way, was brought to you by hiphopdx.com. You guys can check out the full thing, right? What are my thoughts? Honest thoughts. Missionary. Snoop Dogg. Dr. Dre. On paper. Sounds amazing. Sounds incredible. Bringing that collab back together. It's been a while. Again, I think the last time they did something, obviously, they did The Chronic. They did Doggy Style. Murder Was the Case was mostly a lot of Death Row people at the time, but a lot of Snoop Dogg, a lot of Dr. Dre production. Just, it was a banger. That album was nice, too. The Chronic, 2001. Snoop Dogg was probably the most featured person on that album. And after that, he worked with him on certain projects, some that were on No Limit Records, and then some on just solo albums that Snoop Dogg had released throughout the years. Now, there were some people saying this album would never come out. Reggie Wright was one of them. He had said in one of the interviews that they take too long, that the album's not going to come out. Sometimes they like each other, sometimes they did it. In this particular case, they did. Some people said Dr. Dre takes way too long. How long were we waiting for Detox before Detox was announced that it's not coming out, right? Not even like songs of Detox were released. You talk to artists that were on that project that worked with Dr. Dre. They said it was nice, but they were in shock why they never released it. Interesting. Now, when I first heard, I will be very brutally honest. I'm probably one of these people that Snoop Dogg is talking about in this story. And why? Only because I'm such a fan. And my expectation was high. It has to be. When you have all those moving parts moving at the same time. That first single I heard, I was like, it's good. Okay, but it's not what I expected. The second one that came out, I wasn't really feeling. Then the third one came out, and I was like, okay, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned. I'm sorry. That's just my true feelings, right? I know Snoop Dogg's going to probably be like, F this guy, right? Not that he knows who I am, but anyways, if he were to see anybody, F this guy, right? People were saying they were expecting another Doggy Style, maybe a tad. I was hoping for some of that. I will say this, the pros and the cons, right? Pros. Snoop Dogg brought his A game when it came to lyrics. I haven't heard Snoop Dogg spit bars like that in a very long time. When I say bars, he had some bars on there. He took his time to write this album. I will give him all the respect in the world as far as bars. He killed it lyrically. The quality of the music, the engineering, the mixing down, Dr. Dre murdered it. Yes. Some of the cleanest drums, just the transitions, just the way the song just, as a whole moves together in sequence with Snoop Dogg's voice. Beautiful. Masterpiece, quality-wise. However, it was not a Dr. Dre Snoop Dogg album. It felt different. It felt like it was for a different generation, a different audience, which I get it. You have to, right? Snoop Dogg is not, what's he going to talk about at his age? He's not going to talk about shooting guns, selling drugs. He's a grandfather. He's on shows with Martha Stewart. He has a different image now, and I get that. I was hoping for something different. Do I think the album is trash? No, I don't. I had to scale it on the scale of 1 to 10. I would give it a 6.5, maybe a 7. And I tried to listen to this album over and over and over again. There's some songs that start off really good, and then it does like a twist in the middle of it, and it goes a different direction, and that threw me off. There's certain songs where some rappers really sounded off. They sounded rushed, but the beat was cool. There was some projects that were real crossover, popish, I should say. And this album sounded a lot. Do you remember when the Compton came out, the NWA biopic? The Compton soundtrack, it reminded me a lot of that, which, again, engineered flawlessly. Dr. Dre outshined. He's showing you he is a professional. He's showing you his skill is polished. Nobody can touch it. But just because something's super clean doesn't necessarily mean it sounds super good. I would rather have a beat that's just catching my attention where I'm just like, whoa, man, what is this? When you can have a track do that, it doesn't matter if the mix is 100% clean and certain sounds you can hear over there and there. Make it sound good. Make it bump. Snoop Dogg's album, those were the pros. The pros were his lyrics, on point. The beats, as far as engineered, mixed down, Dr. Dre did his thing. He had a couple I was really feeling, but for it to be a Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre album, I was really hoping for more. Again, this might hit a different generation. Who is he going to cater to? Are you going to cater to those old people that, listen to those albums when we were young? Or is he going to cater to a younger audience? If this was a different artist that's more of this new generation over those beats, I can accept it. Yeah, because that's their style. But this didn't seem like the style. However, I do respect both Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg for trying something very different. It was very different. And I respect them for that, taking that risk. Because it's a gamble. Any album you drop is a gamble. And if this album would have hit like they expected it to, man, another classic, another genius did this masterpiece, man. But just my opinion, what do I give Snoop Dogg's Missionary album on a scale of 1 to 10? I give it a 6.5, maybe a 7. There's like about 3-4 songs I really enjoy, and then the rest is just, I could skip it. What are your thoughts? I'm going to post it on my social media. If you guys don't follow me already, follow me all across the board. Alex the One, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it, I'm there. I'm going to post it on my stories. I'm going to post it in Reels. What are your thoughts about Snoop Dogg's Missionary album? Were you excited? Did you enjoy it? Were you looking out for it? Some people said they didn't even know it was out, right? Maybe the promotion wasn't as big as, it could have been. It's another possibility.